I think that if you, before this altcoin bull run happens, want to completely change everything in your portfolio, get away from the risk, which is maybe not even rewarding, and stick with the projects that are probably just going to cook really hard without relative, a lot of risk, then this is maybe one of the last moments you can do that. It's not that I'm saying last chance right now, tomorrow it will be all a lot higher, but this period right now, I don't think we have much more time to prepare, guys. And the numbers, they speak for themselves. So let's take a look at what are the most obvious plays. And I did this video in the Alpha Factory as well. But if I would have to completely sell off everything in my portfolio and stick with 10 coins to make at least a 5x, probably a 10x, and if things go crazy, which they so far always go, maybe even more, then that's the portfolio that I would build. So welcome to the FOMO Factory. I'm not that active on YouTube anymore. I mean, daily videos about how opportunistic the market is right now. We all get it. It's low, you buy. And when it's high, you sell. That's fine. I don't want to repeat that every day. We know that by now. Quality over quantity. We've been cooking hard in the Alpha Factory though, so do check out the Discord down below. If you want to get in, come get in, because there is going to be built something over there, which the Alpha Factory has priority over, and that's going to, I don't want to, like, we have not, how do you put this? Fuck that. There's a product that we need in crypto that's not there yet, and we're building it, right? So you really want to be there. It's going to save you money, time, stress, etc. Very quick. Bitcoin was in a somewhat of a falling wedge, right? Broke out, fell back in, now broke out again. So Bitcoin is a little undecisive so far. Are we going to break out? Are we not going to break out? Well, Bitcoin, let me help you. You are going to break out. We had the highest weekly close ever, all-time high weekly close. That's looking great. July just started, but so far also sitting at the highest monthly close. But again, we're 1 week in, anything could happen, of course. But why do I think it is going to break out pretty hard? Again, I've showed this a couple times in the videos lately, and a lot of people are showing this, but it's probably because we now finally found out in crypto what the one and only indicator is that's actually so far 100% accurate, basically. And that's the global M2. And it makes a lot of sense. We can hope that Bitcoin is going higher because of whatever the reason may be, but if there is no liquidity, then where's the money coming from? There's liquidity. It's not weird that Bitcoin is sitting at 109 right now. And in all honesty, I think that $109,000 in this cycle is kind of comparable to, 7,000 in the last cycle, where we had that big correction up, right? Another big correction, COVID, and we started to recover. Yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing right now in the structure of the market as well. But the whole business cycle has been moved a little bit to the right. And if Bitcoin keeps on following that, then it could be that Bitcoin is actually not going to top out like it usually does this cycle, right? By the end of the post-halving year, but maybe Q1, Q2 next year. Is that bad? I don't know. In my opinion, it's not really. We have to have a little bit more patience for it finally completely plays out. For the people that are in altcoins, yeah, you have to have also more patience because, hey, also alt season, it started last cycle in January, post-halving year. 2017, it started in March, but we got our second leg in November. So it is kind of all over the place all the time. We do know so far it always plays out in the post-halving year, right? So as long as it happens this year, I'm not the one that says this time is different, right? We just have to have some patience. But the global M2 is kind of mooning, right? It is kind of mooning. And if you look how it is, on track with Bitcoin, it is kind of crazy, right? If you look at it like this, Bitcoin and the M2 had that correction right here. Let me put it on the weekly, by the way, so it's a little more clear, right? The global M2 had a correction right here. Hey, Bitcoin had a correction right here. The global M2 is now pretty much going parabolic, right? And there are some correlations here and there for 1 or 2 over the whole cycle on a low time frame. But if you zoom out, you can just see that Bitcoin is pretty much following the M2 precisely. Yeah, and this, in that case, indicates that Bitcoin, if that goes on, could be sitting at 160K within now and August, September. First, I thought August, but the M2 keeps on going. So might also be September. Now, is that the safe bet that we talk about, right? Is that, did you already like the video, by the way? Like, how can you be here for so long and not like, please? I never like videos, I can't blame you, but would help me a lot, by the way. So, thank you. But is that the safe play that I've been talking about? Not really, because if the next stop for Bitcoin is 160K, yay, right? 40-50% gains. Woohoo! That's what we lost yesterday if we're in altcoins, right? So that's not really what we're doing it for. No, but we do know as well that whenever Bitcoin has that major leg up, what else has a major leg up? The altcoin market, right? You see that here, the big lag for Bitcoin, purple altcoins, right? Follows. First huge lag for alts. Here, Bitcoin from 50K to 110, basically. Altcoins also, huge lag up, where they went from 368 billion to 920 billion, right? So altcoins almost did a 3x over there. So it looks like in the moves up, they outperform Bitcoin. But this market is a little steppy by steppy, right? Bitcoin goes up, sideways, and that sideways period can take a long time. But the moves up are fucking nuts. So that's kind of what we're doing it for, right? Now, therefore, if I now look at the altcoin market, I'm like, okay, this is pretty obvious. This is cooking to me. Also, again, if you take a look at the Bitcoin dominance, which now is in a third week of cooling off, but it's by far not a reversal yet, which is a good thing for the people that want to allocate into alts, right? It's not that the Bitcoin dominance is low. And so it's not that you say like, hey, it's now time to buy Bitcoin again. No, it is actually, if you look at this, more time to buy alts than Bitcoin, right? Whether the top is in or here, I think it's safe to say that we're closer to the top than the bottom, right? Funny how I made a poll asking like, what's a better investment at the moment on YouTube and X, and about 35% of the people said Bitcoin. And I'm like, whoa. After all of this, after wrecking alts like this hard, that many people still think that Bitcoin now is a better investment. Like, how high do you think that dominance is going, right? That's what you need to keep in mind. Right now, if we very quickly, by the way, look at the USDT and USDC dominance, 6.66. That's not good, right? It's going to collapse. And if this is going to fall, then that's going to be a huge inflow of money that's now in stables, right? In Bitcoin and or altcoins. And yeah, if I look at this, it's sitting at Fed resistance right here. And also it is sitting below the bull market support band in this flag with a flagpole that came from above, which is a very bearish pattern. So it's not necessarily that I want to see this, but I do see this and I like it, right? So that suggests that if, this falls down here, your altbacks are gonna rip. Unless it's going to be a Bitcoin only run. But again, with the current dominance for Bitcoin, and also if I look at the Bitcoin ETH and stable dominance sitting at the range highs, that would surprise me, actually. But who knows? Anything is possible. So what, in my opinion, are the safe plays that can still make you money, right? And safe plays, it sounds boring, but let's be honest, the unsafe plays haven't been rewarding really as a lot of people hoped, right? People usually, they come into crypto, they buy a micro cap altcoin because it could 50x. In reality, most didn't, right? And most just completely wrecked you. And that's also what you see right here. Others, this is funny, others is everything in the top 125, excluding the top 10. From the last wick low, it is now up with 32%. 32. Right now, if you look at total 3, excluding stable coins, so it's basically the same, but it includes the top 10, except Bitcoin and ETH, and it does not include stable coins, right? So more high caps, actually. This is up 38%. So you see that even in the quite shorter term, the low caps, relative more low caps, are not the ones that are outperforming right now. And why is that? Is that because the crypto market is dead and because we have too many altcoins? No, I don't think so. It's a risk-off environment still, right? If you look at the Russell against the S&P, the basically top 2,000 shit stocks companies, right? They are bleeding against the S&P as well. This is the stock version of altcoins against Bitcoin, right? So it's a macro thing. It's nothing crypto related. Now we know that in the macro world, we have money printers. So I am not worried at all, actually. This will go up eventually. What it's going to take, global M2, QT to stop, rate cuts. I think if we get a combination of all of those, it's going to rip, right? Now, what altcoins could rip really hard in that case? Let me show you this. I honestly think that quality alts are now so low that you do not need to take a lot of risk. I, for example, bought a little VRA, right? I just looked at the chart and I was like, fuck yeah. Like this chart is, you know, it can break to the downside, but then again, this is the best moment to buy anywhere after 4.5 years, actually, right? So I figured, like, let me buy that. But it's a low cap, super high risk coin, right? Do we need that to make 10x's? I don't know. I don't know. I think we can do it better than that. So I have 10 coins written down that I would, if I would have to sell my whole portfolio and start over, which I maybe will do actually, then these will be the coins that I will buy. Number one is Ethereum. Why Ethereum? Because Ethereum is still by far the biggest altcoin, the biggest layer one. It has the best institutional adoption, right? If you look at all the total value locked in DeFi, there is now $116 billion of total value locked. That's a lot. I don't have that. That's a lot, right? But where is it locked? These platforms. What do all these biggest platforms have in common? They're all on ETH, Aave, Lido, not Eigenlayer, layer, but even Binance staked ETH, right? So the biggest platform on Binance, on the BNB chain, it has most value locked for ETH, right? Ether, Fi, Spark is on ETH as well. Sky is on ETH. Ethena is on ETH. Uniswap, we know that, is on ETH. Ethereum is by far still the biggest layer one. And I know that there are always people talking about the Ethereum killer. We had that last cycle. It's supposed to be Cardano. And this cycle, it's supposed to be Solana. Yeah, let's be real. Market cap-wise, Solana is 3.5 times as low as Ethereum still is. Right? While Solana has a huge hype at the moment and Ethereum has basically nothing. So I don't think there's something this cycle that's going to be close to an Ethereum killer, actually. If even Solana cannot come close, then what can, right? Now, of course, anything is possible, but I don't think so. So if you looked at the total value locked, 65 billion in ETH, right? And then we have Sol, Bitcoin, BSC, Tron, basically 10 times as low. So Ethereum, in my opinion, it shows like, hey, there's demand, right? If institutions and big companies ever want to actually use a chain, or banks, right? Use a chain to adopt crypto, to work with stables, whatever. What chain are they going to use? ETH, right? Because they don't care about paying $100 of transaction fees in the bull market. They don't care about that. They want a chain that never goes down, never congested, that's reliable. That's ETH, right? Any other chain always like has some congestions. You don't want that. As a bank, you cannot go to your customers and be like, yeah, well, it's a little on hold, because no, will be ETH. The charts for ETH look fantastic. They show one, opportunity, two, strength, and that's what you want. Ethereum dominance finally went back to the 2019-20, lows. Not 1920, but 19/20. Yeah, and we had that bounce there like crazy. Now, whether it's getting rejected by the bull market support band right here, like it did over here, goes down and then goes up, or goes up straight away, I don't know. I don't care. All I know, this is the place where you want to be. I think ETH is a very, very, very good choice. Also, given the fact that most altcoins are now getting rejected by ETH. We talked about this when it was here, and I said ETH is the most brain dead buy. And it basically gave a 2x in 2 weeks. For such a low risk altcoin, that's great, right? This doesn't mean that altcoins will go down, though. It could mean that Ethereum is going to moon and altcoins are going to moon less hard. It's possible. The next one, I will go to this a little bit quicker, though, will be ADA. What? ADA? Yeah. And why? Well, it would have been ADA or AVAX, because I do think that you should make a good list when it comes to have some layer ones, have some this, have some that, right? All kind of different niches. And when it comes to like ETH, great layer one, but also it's the blue chip alt, basically. ADA is also kind of blue chip-ish, but also because I do think that we are going to get a moment in crypto where retail is going to come in, and where the narrative is stupid money again. Open Binance, Coinbase, I know ADA from last cycle, buy. That's it. We don't need like, oh, does it have good tech? No. But ADA always outperformed without good tech. So, man, even if it like does have good tech this cycle, that could only be helpful, but it definitely doesn't need it. ADA is more of a cold coin at this point. And yeah, the Cardano dominance, talked about this before, but this is what we're seeing right here. This is so fucking crazy. Bear market, huge bounce at this point, right? Up, resistance right here, down, consolidating, big spike, again, big spike, up to this level again, right? Down again, consolidating a bit, right? Now down again, find some consolidation hopefully here, right? And then the next move is this, and that could be this. This is the most insane chart I have ever seen, because you know what they say, history doesn't repeat. But this chart is a fucking copy of last cycle. This chart does repeat so far. I'm not saying that the next move will, but I'm also saying like, hey, keep in mind that it could, right? So yeah, that's kind of crazy. Now, the next one that I would also, by the way, Cardano is simply strong on the dollar pair as well, right? Sitting at an opportunity, but it also high. A lot of coins in December made a lower high. So I think that Cardano is that typical coin that people feel like, oh, fuck Cardano. And in the meantime, they underestimate what it could really do, actually. Next one would be Render. I think that Render is just... AI could be the play, but not the low cap, newer AI coins that basically copy Chain GPT or, Chat GPT and say like, hey, we have the most innovative new thing. Like, no, most AI coins are basically meme coins, but Render isn't. And Render is also showing like this is an outperformer, right, in this market. During like even it already bottomed before Bitcoin bottomed. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's what you don't really see in alts, right? If you look at BTC, BTC bottomed here in November 2022. Render bottomed half a year earlier. But it also started to outperform Bitcoin in every single move. It's crazy. And now it finally doesn't, right? But it doesn't mean that it's dead. It just means that, hey, we are now obviously in a risk-off environment. But there is a pretty decent blueprint set for when we are in a risk-on environment. What is the outperformer then? Yeah, and that's going to be Render, in my opinion. Now, try to not look at the market cap and like, hey, it's already sitting at a $1.6 billion market cap. How high could it go? Last cycle, Cardano went from 1 billion to 100 billion, right? Like, it doesn't mean that this cannot have a huge gain whenever the market conditions are favorable, right? Also, token inflation, great. Like, I love this one. I love this one. I think that this big gainer, yeah. Next one that I would go with is Super, because I do think for two reasons, actually. One, I want to have exposure to gaming because gaming is, at a certain point, it will be the hardest runner. Whether it's in a month, in half a year, or next cycle. That I don't know. But I will slap myself on my head if I am not exposed to gaming and that it's going to have the obvious outperforming run. It's going to run harder than layer ones, than Bitcoin, than meme coins, than AI, than RWA, than everything combined. Why? Because it has the most users already, right? Billions of people play games. It's simple internet tech. What's the most obvious combination with crypto, right? It's obvious. It's not a matter of if, but when, in my opinion. And yeah, it looks very dead right now. But that's where the opportunities are, right? At a certain point, it will. I just don't know when. And I don't want to burn my fingers in the meantime on these high-risk individual games that may or may not survive, right? Therefore, I feel like, hey, let's get into one of the, the infrastructures. That's Super. If gaming runs, Super will go nuts. And a lot of people wonder, like, what does Super do actually? Well, it's basically in every single crypto game, you will be able to do transactions with the Super token. So this is so easy. And it's quite cool as well, because we have no gaming narrative at all. Everybody, well, not everybody, but most people that are in crypto say that it's dead. Well, that's pretty cool, because even when it is dead, Super does a 6.5x at this period. It outperformed everything, right? And even here, in this last April pump, 150. It outperforms every move up so far in this cycle. So yeah, obvious to me. Like, again, it's not a guarantee that it will do that in the next move, but hey, you don't want to find out that in the next move it does that again, and you are not there because you thought that it wouldn't do that. Next one, Arrow. And I have an X behind it because I think that this allocation should be a bit lower. Why? Because it's simply lower cap. Well, although with the recent pump, I have to fact check that. But Arrow, it is such an obvious play in my opinion. Again, why? Ethereum is gonna have a huge hated rally. People say Ethereum is dead, and it's not, right? Of course it isn't. Is it the fastest chain out there? No, I don't think that that's the most important factor for a chain, but it's by definition, it's not the fastest, definitely. Is it very cheap? Nowadays it is. But in a bull market, no, it's not that cheap. Well, then there's Base, the layer one on ETH, which is fast as hell. And it costs you basically nothing. So it's like having the fast transactions, the cheap transactions of Solana, combined with the security, the adoption, and the stability of Ethereum. That's like that Goku Vegeta, like they're gonna fuse, like not like that, but you know, that's crazy. Now, Base doesn't have a native token, so what's next best? Arrow, right? You could get into meme coins like Bread or whatever, but if you want to be a little more on the utility side, then Arrow. And it showed, right? Arrow up from this point with 150%. Arrow had a sick pump. Like, this is going nuts. Easy play, in my opinion. Ondo is at this point, I think, especially when it was sitting at lower 60s though, but definitely you have to be in the L factory, like we make these calls there sometimes. But Ondo, yeah, it's the biggest RWA play basically out there, and I think also the safest. The connections and the partnerships that they have are insane, really insane. I personally don't have an allocation in Ondo yet, at least not a big one. I have some in my business, but not in my personal portfolio, but I will do that. I want to see how it plays out here with this bull market support band. If it goes down here again, I'm gonna go heavy on Ondo. Also, what you can see is that if you again go back here, you see that the RWA TVL is growing so fast, right? Let me show you. Is this everything that I can show you, really? All right, whatever. It's at least sitting at an all-time high. RWA is growing and growing and growing, right? And what's one of the bigger RWA plays? Ondo Finance. I think you cannot go wrong with Ondo. Now, same as Render, or not exactly the same as Render actually, but likewise when it comes to the market cap, like, hey, it's not low cap coin, right? It's $2.5 billion. That does not mean that it cannot do a 10x or more, right? I'm not saying it will, but don't look at such a number and be like, oh, that can never do much. It can. Sure, it can, right? It's also one of the charts that if you look at actual market cap, it's been holding up very well. Like, the high was 5 billion. It's sitting 2x from the all-time high. 2x. That's it. Strong. Really strong. The next one would be riskier, again, already, but ChainGPT. So another narrative, right? Launchpads. Why? I said this before, but if the market goes up, people make money. They want to get into new projects. How do you do that? Well, through a Launchpad. And ChainGPT has a good combination of AI and Launchpad. It is pretty low cap. If you compare it to a Render or an Ondo, right? It's $80 million. It went to 350 this cycle so far, right? In January already. And so you can see like, hey, this actually has a lot of growth whenever the market turns favorable. Plus, you can, of course, make money by joining the actual launches. But this is, for this cycle, like I wanted to say with gaming, that's the most brain dead play, in my opinion, but I don't know when that's going to happen. This is for this cycle, the most brain dead play. Launchpads. Good quality launchpads. Right? I don't know what else to say. This will go up if the market goes up. Easy. Same goes for CeDeFi, S-Fund. So S-Fund is more a blue chip launchpad. It's now sitting at $40 million. This thing also went to 350, right? So it's pretty much 9x below, well, not really 9x, but almost below the cycle high. Yeah, I love to see that CeDeFi made a new all-time high this cycle so far without an alt season compared to the all-time high during the 2021 alt season. That shows that if we get an alt season this cycle, this will, go crazy. I think that if you buy CeDeFi anywhere, not financial advice, of course, but if you buy it anywhere around these prices, you will be very happy whenever the bull really hits. This will go nuts, really. Then I have Joe. Why Joe? Because I chose ADA as my layer 1 instead of AVAX. But AVAX is such a obvious play to me as well, because it's cooking. Net price-wise, it's not spectacular. But a lot of projects, they rather build, make sure that they have a strong foundation, and then hype it up whenever the market conditions allow them to. And that's the approach that I like most as well. Therefore, whenever the market goes up, I can see AVAX going really nuts, actually. And also, it is a high cap coin, definitely. Then again, $7 billion for a layer 1, which is also fast, cheap, has all the narratives and insane partnerships. 7 billion. Again, look at Solana. It's sitting at the moment at 80, right? 10x as high as AVAX. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets a Solana type run as well, actually. And therefore, I would say I'm going to go with the biggest DEX on AVAX, right? Which is Joe. If you look at DeFi Llama, you go to Avalanche, right? You see the total value locked, which is from the bull market in 2021. You see 10 billion, right? And when the bear market hit, yeah, this got wrecked like everything else. But you see this slow and steady climb right here, where it went from, I don't know exactly what the low was, let's say 480 million. Now sitting at 1.5 billion, it's already 3x as high, right? Now, where are the most fees paid? Faro Exchange and Trader Joe, which is now called LF Joe. Let's fucking Joe. So I'm staking that Joe token. You can unlock anytime. You don't have to lock it, so that's cool. And whenever they make revenue, I'm getting a share of that. Yeah, I am completely okay with that, because if you look at the fees and the revenue right now, it's pretty much nothing, right? It's pretty much nothing. But that's okay, because that also makes the price of the token very low. So if you buy that right here, we get into an AVAX season, and it goes here, guess where all that money is going, right? To the stakers. Yeah, and then you wish you bought that Joe token, because then people also feel like, whoa, I need that Joe token now, right? So that's another token right now that I feel like, whoa, one, it's sitting at basically the best opportunity since the bear market lows, right? They did a 10x from that point. And this is also just believing that the market will eventually go up. Yeah. I don't know. I've made a lot of videos about that. If you don't believe that, then I don't know why you're watching this video, by the way. So I'm probably not even talking to the person that doesn't believe that. So this is my, I don't know. Let's Joe. Was there anything else? Yeah. Okay, so the last one is wild. I needed to have a little bit more gaming exposure than just super. And with wild, also an X behind it, lower cap, individual game, higher risk, but still the quality is sick. right? It's not that like, you know, Web3 gaming, let's be honest, looks so good. We got an Illuvium and we were like, whoa, yeah, because we finally got something that looked a little similar to what we have in Web 2 already for a long time. Right? But that's not the wow factor anymore. Now it should be the standard. But Wild doesn't look like a Web 3 game. It looks like a Web 2 game all along. This looks like a freaking fantastic product. And with a market cap of $40 million, I'm like, damn. That's really low. That's really low. And I think whenever gaming narrative hits a little bit, then it could fly. Because in this market so far, we have seen twice that it went above 300 million. Let alone if we get a somewhat of a gaming narrative. You have your 20x token here then, right? So I'm not talking about the real low caps in this video. Because again, I don't think you need it at this point. I don't think if you want to make a really steady, good, potential life-changing return on your crypto portfolio, you don't need to look at all these high-risk, low-cap coins. You can easily look at a render, at a super, at an arrow, and be like, oh, I can, you know, pull off a 5 or 10x out of these tokens. Right? This will be the list. Layer 1 / meme, AI, gaming, DeFi, RWA, AI, Launchpad, DeFi, gaming. You could say, where are the meme coins? I don't need them. Why? You could say like, okay, let's replace one gaming coin with a meme coin, if you like that, right? But then I would say, go with a Doge, right? That kind of stuff. Because these are pretty much sure to rip and at least stay this cycle. If you look at, you know, you could look at a fart coin or whatever. It's new, it's funny, it has the hype right now. But you know the attention span in crypto. I am definitely not feeling okay if I would have to hold that type of coin, you know, for longer than a couple months actually, right? And with Doge, that's not a problem, right? So, but you can do that. Definitely, you can do whatever you want actually. But this would be, if I have to go with 10 coins, this would be a portfolio that, one, I would sleep very well on. Like, okay, not a lot of risk, no rocks probably, you know, you never know, but not a high chance. And if the market is gonna rip, I won't have the feeling that I'm missing out on big gains. And later you can, of course, always rotate a render into a lower cap AI play when the market is more risk on. One little tip, look at these coins on their ETH pair first, right? Because like we saw, ETH is at the moment outperforming the overall altcoin market. Altcoins are going down against ETH, right? So maybe you first just want to have a bigger allocation in ETH and then get into the other place if you want to be a little bit more active with this. That way you can get more out of it. You're also taking more risk by trading it more. But if you just want to buy and hold, then this would be a perfect list in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people would say, what about this one? What about that one? I know a lot of good other stuff out there. But then again, you're gonna put yourself in a position where you have 25 coins. And the purpose of this video was actually to narrow it down with low risk, high reward. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Again, do check out the Alpha Factory down below. Come join the Discord. Get on a one-on-one call with me. I'm gonna share my portfolio. I would say position yourself in a community that's strong, smart, takes time for each other before this market is gonna rip. Because if you do this alone, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. Not impossible, but still. For now, thanks. Take care. See you in the next one.